In the stillness of Alaska's remote mountains, two soldiers stop for gas at a lonely station, laughing off the day's fatigue. But in the eerie silence, the distant roar of engines shatters the calm. Unaware, they're about to encounter the most unlikely ally and a gang that will test their courage in ways they never expected. Some heroes come when you least expect it. Welcome to our channel, where every story takes you to the heart of unforgettable moments and incredible courage. If you love tales that uplift and inspire, you're in the right place. Hit that subscribe button and join us on this journey. Every click helps us share more powerful, heartwarming stories with you and the world. Private Jake and Corporal Sam had been on the road for hours. They were in the heart of Alaska, surrounded by vast, icy mountains and endless stretches of pine trees. With each mile, they left behind the familiar comfort of their base, heading back from a grueling training exercise that had tested their endurance, teamwork, and patience. But now, their spirits were light, and laughter filled the air as they recounted old stories and jokes, their breath visible in the crisp, chilly air. They'd been looking forward to a warm meal and a solid night's sleep. As the sun dipped behind the mountains, casting long shadows across the snow-covered ground, they spotted a tiny gas station by the side of the road. It looked more like a relic of the past than a modern-day station, with its peeling paint and a single pump standing under a flickering fluorescent light. But out here, options were few, and their tank was running low. They pulled up to the pump, and Sam got out to fill the tank, while Jake stayed inside, fiddling with the radio, trying to pick up a signal, but all that came through was static. "Guess it's just us out here, huh?" Jake chuckled. Sam smirked. "Hey, maybe Bigfoot'll swing by. Heard he roams these parts." They both laughed, easing into the quiet, relishing the break in their journey. The only sound was the steady hum of the pump as it dispensed gas into their rugged military vehicle. Then, without warning, a low, ominous rumble broke the silence, faint at first, but quickly growing louder. Jake perked up, listening closely as the noise grew from a distant hum to a roaring thunder. He exchanged a puzzled look with Sam, who had frozen beside the pump, his gaze fixed on the mountain road. Rounding the bend, headlights cut through the dusk, and one by one, motorcycles appeared, their engines roaring as they barreled down the road toward the station. There were 6, maybe 7 of them, riding in a tight formation. The bikers, dressed in leather jackets adorned with skulls, flames, and dark patches, looked as if they'd been carved out of the very mountains surrounding them. The motorcycles came to a screeching halt around the gas station, circling the soldiers' truck in an almost predatory manner. The bikers' gruff faces were hidden beneath helmets and scarves, but their intentions were unmistakable. These weren't tourists or friendly passersby. They were the Shadow Riders, a gang rumored to rule these remote roads with a code of intimidation and hostility. Sam and Jake kept their cool, but they shared a quick, wary glance. Jake slowly got out of the truck, careful to avoid any sudden movements, and gave a casual nod to Sam, silently reassuring him that they would handle this. One of the bikers revved his engine, and the rest followed, creating a wall of noise that echoed off the mountains. Then, one by one, they dismounted, each of them larger and meaner looking than the last. Tattoos snaked up their arms, covering every visible inch of skin, and chains hung from their belts, jingling ominously as they moved. One of the bikers spat on the ground near Sam's feet and smirked. "Out for a little joyride, soldiers," he sneered. "This ain't your road." Jake, calm as ever, forced a friendly smile. "Just filling up and heading out. No trouble here, man." But the bikers weren't about to let them off that easy. They began to circle closer, their voices a mix of low laughs and taunting remarks. Sam clenched his jaw, resisting the urge to engage, knowing it could only escalate the situation. Suddenly, a large figure stepped forward, towering over the rest. This was Crusher, the leader of the gang. His face was scared, and a thick chain hung around his neck. clinking against a menacing grin as he approached. He stopped just inches from Jake and Sam, his eyes narrowing. "See, out here, we got different rules," Crusher drawled, his voice thick with mockery. "And you too. Well, you owe us. Consider it a toll for using our gas station." Jake raised an eyebrow, keeping his voice steady. "We paid at the pump." Crusher's smile turned into a leer. No, not with money. I'm talking respect." His hand drifted to the chain around his neck, his fingers playing with it threateningly. "And maybe a little something extra." The air felt thick with danger as the bikers edged even closer. Sam shifted his weight, eyes scanning for an escape route, but it was clear they were surrounded. The pump had stopped, but it might as well have been a mile away. As the tension crackled in the cold Alaskan air, Jake and Sam realized this wasn't going to end with polite words. They were cornered, with no way out and a gang of bikers ready to strike. Jake and Sam stood firm, their postures calm as they faced the growing mob of bikers. Jake forced a relaxed smile, trying to break the tension. "You know," he said, his voice casual, "we're just trying to get back to base. Didn't mean to mess with anyone's turf." A few of the bikers chuckled, but it was a humorless, mocking sound. Crusher, their leader, only smirked, crossing his arms as he looked Jake and Sam up and down, sizing them up like prey. Sam tried to lighten the mood, cracking a half-joke. "Honestly, we're not much for mountain turf wars. Just two soldiers, minding our own business." But Crusher's smile faded, replaced with a dangerous glare. He turned to his gang, waving a dismissive hand. "You hear that, boys? Sounds like these soldiers think they can stroll in and disrespect our land. Maybe it's time we show 'em who runs this road." With that, he gave a nod, and the bikers sprang into action. They began kicking over crates stacked by the station wall, tipping over trash cans, and slamming their fists against the truck hood, causing dents to ripple across the metal. They laughed loudly, feeding off each other's chaos, turning the quiet gas station into a scene of destruction. Jake felt a surge of anger rising but forced himself to stay calm. He could see Sam's jaw clench, his friend doing the same, fighting the urge to react. They both knew that any sudden move could set off an explosion of violence. But as the bikers continued to create havoc, a flash of Jake's little brother's face appeared in his mind. He remembered their last conversation before heading out for training. His brother's voice echoed in his mind, innocent and full of hope. "Promise me you'll come back safe, Jake, every time." He took a deep breath, grounding himself, feeling the weight of that promise. He couldn't afford to lose his cool here. Sam glanced at him, his expression hard but resolute. They shared a quick, silent look, one that spoke volumes. If things got worse, they'd be in it together. Crusher swaggered up, stopping just inches from Sam, and glared down at him with a sneer. Sam met his eyes, unflinching. "You're making a mistake, Crusher," Sam said calmly, his voice steady, but carrying a firmness that demanded attention. "This isn't going to end the way you think. We got friends nearby, and if you don't stand down, there'll be consequences." The bikers roared with laughter. One of them, a wiry man with a face covered in tattoos, pointed at Sam and chuckled. "Friends? Out here? I don't see anyone coming to save you, soldier boy." They moved closer, boxing Jake and Sam in, blocking off any possible exits. Sam's warning didn't faze them. In fact, it seemed to fuel their confidence. Crusher's lips twisted into a twisted grin, and he pulled something from his back pocket, a rusty, old switchblade, flicking it open with a casual flick of his wrist. He held it up, letting it glint in the station's dim light. He fixed Jake and Sam with a cold stare. "Let's see if you're as tough as they say, soldier boys," he sneered. "Show us what you're really made of." The atmosphere around them grew thick, a heavy silence settling over the scene as the bikers looked on eagerly, waiting for the first move. Jake's mind raced as he assessed their limited options. They were cornered, unarmed, and without any backup, facing a gang of bikers itching for a fight. Sam shifted his weight subtly, preparing for the worst. They'd trained for high-pressure situations, but this wasn't a battlefield. It was something raw, primal, and far too close for comfort. Then, just as the tension reached its peak, something caught Jake's eye. A flicker of movement, small and almost imperceptible, came from behind the gas station. He barely dared to hope. But there it was again, a faint, shuffling shadow cast against the station wall. No one else had noticed. All eyes were locked on him and Sam. He kept his face expressionless, not wanting to give away the potential ally hiding in the shadows. His heart raced as he silently willed whoever, or whatever, it was to stay hidden. This might be their only chance. Crusher took a step forward, twirling the switchblade, his voice dripping with menace. "What's the matter? Not so tough now, are you?" Jake took a slow, steadying breath. He could feel the energy shift as the bikers closed in tighter, and he knew they were seconds away from an all-out brawl. But he couldn't risk giving away the movement behind the station. Keeping his gaze on Crusher, he forced a calm smile and spoke in a low, controlled voice. "You might be surprised, Crusher. After all, Alaska's a place full of surprises. Hold it right there," the voice commanded, calm but laced with a firm authority. From behind the station's counter, an old man stepped into view. He was hunched but sturdy, with a weathered face, scruffy white hair, and a gaze that could slice through stone. Dressed in a faded flannel shirt and oil-stained overalls, he didn't look like much, just the tired, scruffy attendant at a forgotten gas station in the middle of nowhere. But his presence was commanding. Jake and Sam exchanged surprised glances as they watched this unlikely ally take center stage. Crusher and his gang stared at him, momentarily stunned, before bursting into laughter. One of the bikers sneered, "You've got to be kidding me. Look at this old fossil. Gonna fight us off with a broomstick, Grandpa." Old Roy didn't flinch. He stepped forward, his boots crunching on the gravel, stopping just a few feet from Crusher. Despite his age, there was a fiery intensity in his eyes, a spark that silenced the biker's jeers. With a steady, unwavering voice, he said, "I'm giving you one chance to leave these men alone and get off my property." Crusher's smirk faded slightly, but he quickly regained his bravado. "And what are you gonna do about it, old man?" Roy's face hardened, a storm of memories flashing in his gaze. He took a slow, deep breath and spoke with a calm, unshakable strength. "Once a Marine, always a Marine. You think I don't know how to handle a pack of bullies like you? I fought men tougher and meaner than you in places you wouldn't last a day." He let his words sink in, standing taller, each syllable carrying the weight of years in service and countless battles. The bikers fell silent, exchanging uncertain glances. Crusher forced a scoff, but Jake noticed the flicker of hesitation in his eyes. The soldiers, too, were stunned, realizing that this old gas station attendant was more than he seemed. For the first time, they felt a glimmer of hope. Without breaking eye contact, Roy reached beneath the counter, and when he straightened up, a shotgun was cradled in his hands. It was old but polished, its metal gleaming even in the dim light. He held it with the sure grip of someone who'd handled it countless times before. It was more than a weapon. It was an extension of him, a symbol of the strength and courage that had defined his life. Roy's voice was steady as he addressed the gang, his gaze sharp and unyielding. "Now, I don't want to use this, but if you boys don't back off and leave these soldiers alone, I'll give you something to remember. This here's your last chance to turn around and ride out." The biker's confidence wavered, and Crusher's bravado slipped as he eyed the shotgun with growing apprehension. He tried to laugh it off, though his voice betrayed a hint of nervousness. "What are you gonna do, old man? That relic can barely shoot." Roy smiled slightly, a knowing, almost daring smile. "Maybe you're right, maybe you're not, but I'll let you decide if you want to test that theory." Then, with a calmness that stunned even Jake and Sam, Roy reached behind the counter and pulled a hidden lever. Instantly, a piercing alarm blared to life. Echoing through the empty mountain landscape, its sound cutting through the stillness of the forest. The alarm wasn't just loud. It was a call to the local community, the kind of signal everyone nearby would recognize. The bikers flinched at the sudden noise, their bravado evaporating as the shrieking alarm shattered the quiet. They exchanged uneasy glances, shifting nervously, realizing they had underestimated the situation. Crusher's cocky smile was gone, replaced by a scowl. He spat on the ground and glared at Roy, but the confidence in his eyes had vanished. "All right, old man," he muttered, trying to save face. "We'll let you have your little station. This time." He shot a glare at Jake and Sam, muttering under his breath, "Lucky day, soldiers. Next time, there won't be anyone to save you." One by one, the bikers turned, grumbling under their breaths as they mounted their motorcycles, each engine roaring to life. Crusher took one last look at Roy, his face twisted with frustrated anger, but he knew he'd been beaten. With a final sneer, he revved his engine, leading the pack as they roared back down the mountain road, disappearing into the night. As the sound of the bikes faded, silence settled over the gas station once more. Roy exhaled, lowering his shotgun, and turned to Jake and Sam with a slight smile. "Didn't think I'd let a couple of fine soldiers get roughed up on my watch, did you?" he said with a wink. Jake and Sam exchanged stunned glances, then broke into grateful smiles. They couldn't believe it. A quiet old man in the mountains had become their unlikely hero. Crusher tried to hold his ground, forcing a smirk as he looked Roy up and down, trying to mask his unease. "Just a lucky day for you boys," he muttered, but his voice wavered and his eyes betrayed him. The bikers, however, had lost whatever nerve they'd arrived with. One of them mumbled, "Come on, Crusher. Let's get out of here." Another had already stepped back toward his bike, and the others quickly followed suit, no longer looking like the intimidating force they had been just minutes before. Seeing his gang scrambling, Crusher tried to save face, casting one last scowl at Jake and Sam. "This ain't over, soldiers," he snarled, but his threat fell flat. Jake straightened, eyes narrowing as he took a single step forward, his voice low and steady. "Oh, it's over, Crusher. And if you or any of your buddies try something like this again, you'll be dealing with more than just a shotgun and an old Marine," Jake said, his tone unwavering. Sam, equally firm, added, "Believe us, you don't want to find out what happens if we ever see you on this road again." Crusher hesitated, grinding his teeth in frustration, but his pride wasn't enough to risk another clash. With one last spiteful glance, he turned to his bike, muttering curses under his breath. He mounted it, motioning for his gang to follow. The engines roared to life, and though the bikers attempted to rev aggressively, it was clear they were defeated. They peeled out of the gas station one by one, leaving a cloud of dust and exhaust behind as they sped back down the mountain road. As the dust settled, the silence returned, broken only by the soft creak of the station sign swaying in the wind. Roy slowly lowered his shotgun, his shoulders relaxing. Jake and Sam watched the last biker's taillights fade into the distance, feeling the weight of the tension lift at last. Jake turned to Roy, his face full of gratitude. "Thank you, Roy. You didn't have to do that for us, but we're sure glad you did." His voice was thick with emotion as he realized just how close they had come to being badly outnumbered and outmatched. Roy chuckled softly, leaning his shotgun against the counter. "Ah, don't mention it. Can't let a couple of good soldiers get messed with on my property." He shrugged, a humble smile on his face, but there was a deep, quiet pride in his eyes. "Once a Marine, always a Marine," he added, his voice trailing off with a distant look that suggested a lifetime of battles both on and off the field. Sam stepped forward, shaking Roy's hand firmly. "You're something else, Roy. We'll remember this." Roy nodded, giving them a simple "you boys take care," as if what he'd done was just a small favor and not an act of courage that had just turned the tables. As Jake and Sam walked back to their truck, They exchanged a meaningful glance, each feeling deeply moved by Roy's bravery. They both knew they would carry this experience with them, a reminder of courage in unexpected places, of strength that had nothing to do with youth or physique, but everything to do with character. Back in the truck, Jake looked over at Sam, a smile spreading across his face. Who would have thought a scruffy old gas station attendant would be the hero of the day? Sam chuckled, shaking his head. Yeah, guess there's more to people than meets the eye. Makes you wonder how many quiet heroes like Roy are out there, just waiting for the right moment to step up. They shared a moment of quiet reflection before Sam started the engine. As they drove away from the gas station, they glanced back one last time. The place looked small and unremarkable, just an old, isolated stop on a snowy mountain road. But they knew it was more than that. That lonely gas station, surrounded by the serene and silent mountains, would forever hold a powerful memory, a symbol of resilience, quiet bravery, and an unwavering stand against adversity. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this story, don't leave without subscribing and letting us know in the comments where you're tuning in from. Your support means the world to us, helping us create even more memorable tales. So, subscribe, share, like, and engage in the video. We can't wait to hear from you.